This podcast is brought to you by lillybadcock.com and the Confidence Academy, giving you the confidence to be who you truly are. This is the Confidence Academy podcast. My name is Lilli Badcock and I am a transformational confidence coach, and I'm here with a message for you. The anxiety and overwhelm you've been experiencing is not something to be feared or avoided. It's also not something that gets to define who you are as a person. No matter who you are, no matter what your story is, I know that you get to live a life of fulfillment and joy. It's my absolute pleasure to bring this podcast series to you in collaboration with some phenomenal people from all over the world who have walked the same path as you. Together, we will share our stories, our challenges, and our triumphs, with the intention of helping you to see that it's possible for you too. Anxiety may be something you live with, but it doesn't get to define who you are or how you live your life. So stand by for some powerful conversations, deep realizations, and the occasional F-bomb. So get those headphones in if you're around sensitive ears, and stand by. This is going to be fun. Yo, yo, yo! Welcome back to the show, and this week I've got an absolute treat for you all as I was joined by the gorgeous Hyacinth Fraser and Eva Provodel. These amazing ladies got together during the first lockdown and co-authored 2 books all about resilience. They work together under the business name Go Mind in Motion Limited, and they are passionate about supporting people to be the best version of themselves through their books, online courses, and one-to-one coaching. Make sure you stay tuned to the end of this one because we birthed an epic idea live on the interview, and there is a way that you will get to work with all 3 of us in June, so stay tuned for that. Before we get into the episode, did you know that I have now launched my very own online choir? Now, of course, if you know me, you'll know it's so much more than just a regular choir, and it's definitely where you want to be if singing is something you love to do. If you want to give it a go, click the link in the show notes for your free trial. And don't forget to join me over in the Facebook group where you can post your comments and questions and connect with other fans of the show, as well as my amazing guests. I'm live in there every week for Q&A, and so I will look forward to seeing you at the next one. In the meantime, settle in for this incredible conversation with Hyacinth and Eva. Hi everybody, welcome back to the podcast. It's Lilli Badcock here, and you are listening to the Confidence Academy podcast. And I am joined today by 2 gorgeous ladies called Hyacinth Fraser and Eva Provodel, and they are all the way in London, the UK, just 2 hours down the road, you guys. It's so exciting. They're local. Hyacinth and Eva, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Lilli, for having us. Lovely to be here.
Thank
You're
you.
so welcome. You're so welcome. And I should also mention we've got Sophia here right from the start, and her contribution is a bit of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. So if you guys are hearing that in the background, that's what that is. So Hyacinth and Eva, welcome. It's so exciting to have both of you on here, and this is only the 2nd or 3rd interview I've done with 2 people at once, and I am not the best at not talking over everybody as we go. So, you know, if you've got something to say, ram on in there and let everyone know what you want to say, because I'm like a steam train.
Do you know what, Lilli? Ava and I are well versed in being interviewed together.
Oh, so you guys have got it all going on then. That's fabulous.
We're good.
Well, I love that. I love it. Well, let's tell everybody what brings you onto the show. So you guys wrote a couple of books during lockdown about resilience. So tell me about those books, Hyacinth. Let me know how that all came about.
Well, do you know what? It feels like it goes back a way now, doesn't it? I think it was back in December 2019. Ava and I, long story short, decided to work together. But we decided we'd run personal development, professional development courses face to face. Fast forward to March 2020, lockdown happened. We decided actually what we need to do is write a book about resilience and bring our courses online. So that's exactly what we've done. And we've written 2 books within that time. Hasn't always been plain sailing, but actually we've had to dig very deep, particularly with the first book around resilience. We spent hours, sometimes 10 to 12 hours, a day writing the book, just because we wanted to get it out into the marketplace, because we knew that actually what people needed during this time was to dig deep and find their resilience to deal with the issues at hand.
Yeah, that's amazing, incredible. And Ava, so I mean, 10 to 12 hours a day of writing, that's insane. I've been part of a collaborative book, and I only had to write one chapter, and that was hard going for me. So how did you carve that out? Because when we were all in lockdown, we were all slammed into our houses with everybody else, and like, you know, all the commitments. So how did you carve out the time to set aside to get that book? I'm guessing it was the mission that was really pulling you to do that, right?
Yeah, well, for me, it was really, really therapeutic, actually, because suddenly, for me, all my work dried up in March 2020. For who knew what time? We didn't know how long that would last. So I found myself being anxious for having too much time on my hands and not knowing what was going to happen. So I was waking up in the night with palpitations, even though mentally, rationally, I was saying, no, everything is fine. I'm coping really well. I'm living with my partner. I'm good. It wasn't like that for my body. I was feeling the stress of when will work resume, what will happen. And this project gave me the motivation to wake up every morning and do something meaningful and sort of really ride that wave of what's going on and what's important now. So it gave me a little bit of structure during the day, and it was a learning experience. So one of the things that I learned was together with Hyacinth was, well, first of all, how do we work together? That was a work in progress, and it's like a relationship, isn't it? It's a business relationship. There were times when I was speaking to Hyacinth more than my partner and any other close friends I had, because we had so much going on building this, and from that came the business and other ideas, and we've expanded to courses. And so the very first book is called Bouncing Back, 107 Tips to Become More Resilient. And I really felt that. I want to bounce back here, you know? And from that, we went through other 2 lockdowns, I think. So I think what happened then was we matured this. We created nine pillars of resilience, what it was to us in our experience as well. And then we matured it to become a daily practice. So the following book is called My Little Book of Resilience, 365 Daily Inspirations, because we realized actually it needs to be a daily thing. And that's what we were doing for ourselves. At least I was, because I needed it.
Yeah, that was going to be my question, actually. You know, was this a subject that you were already well versed in? And I'm guessing you must have had some background in it, right, to want to write that. But I imagine it was really cathartic, and actually pulling you through. It was you going through the process and then writing the book as you go, which I think is such a powerful way to share your expertise. I wrote a workbook once for the Confidence Academy really early on, which was to help people. I wanted something simple that would help people when they were in a panic attack, or if they felt a panic attack coming on. And the funny thing was, I wrote this guide and I was really proud of it. It had 10 lovely polished steps, and it was very well thought out, and I was patting myself on the back thinking I've done a good thing. And then I had a panic attack, and in the throes I could feel it coming, and I was like, oh, like something in the back of my mind was like, I'm going to use my workbook, that this will show me if it works. And it was utter tosh. It didn't work at all, because I hadn't written it from that perspective. I'd written it from, what can I give people that will help? And I hadn't really sat in the experience of what having a panic attack feels like. So in the throes of this panic attack, I literally took myself through, right, what am I going to do first? Like, what do I like? First, I just need to breathe, right? Second, I need to ground myself. I need to, you know, and then you've got all the things that you pick up, like, you know, 5 things you can see, 5 things you can touch, and all of that. And I rewrote the whole workbook through a panic attack, and it was a much better workbook as a result of that, because by the end of it, I was like, well, that's actually helped me. I actually know that works. there's something I wanted to pick up on straight away, because I think when lockdown hit, it blindsided all of us, right? Like, no, and you know, Ava, you mentioned a minute ago that it was uncertain how long this was going to be for. But I think, if I'm honest, I did not anticipate that it was still going to be here a year later, right? I mean, first of all, my choir, I mean, we are a bunch of rebels anyway, but I can remember when everyone else was shutting down, I was saying to the choir, what are we going to do? Because it was at that point where no decisions had been made and you were kind of left to make your own assumptions and your own decisions. And I was like, what are we going to do? Are we going to shut? They were like, no, we'll keep singing, we'll keep going. And literally the next week, then Boris was like, no, like, we're going to shut down. And so we were like, okay, we'll do as we're told. But, you know, I think we were all thinking, it'd be a few weeks. You know, I think initially, didn't they give us like a small time frame? And we were like, you know, couple of months, we'll get that done, or 8 weeks, or whatever it was. And I just think as the realization set in that this is not going away quickly, and in fact it's getting worse, and in some ways we're still feeling the effects of that, because now you've got all the variants coming in, and you know, oh well, we've dealt with that, but now there's this one, and that vaccine you just had probably isn't going to help, and you know, we're constantly dealing with that. Something I noticed was a lot of people fell apart in that situation because they had their jobs taken away, their security taken away, their familiarity taken away. And what it did was it created this pressure cooker. And I noticed that there were a handful of people that actually rose up through that process. And I would put you guys in that category, because you know, you went through the same thing as everybody else. You were feeling those effects. Like Ava, you said that your body was in anxiety, and this is something I find really interesting with anxiety. It's not a conscious thing all of the time, or hardly any of the time. Your body can be anxious even if consciously you think you're okay. And I think it's the same with stress, and I think it's the same with anything under that umbrella. You can really kid yourself, no, I'm fine, I feel fine because I've decided I'm fine. Your body is going to tell you that you're not, right? Or it will tell you when you're not. So I've just really wanted to acknowledge that and honor you guys for stepping up, because I feel like, from a spiritual perspective, and I do go there on this podcast as well, from a spiritual perspective, this past 12 months has been an awakening for so many people. And I think it's been a drawn out process. And some people took a few months to kind of sit with what was happening. Then they started to look at their life and go, do you know what? I don't want to go back and commute, you know, that 2-hour journey every day. I don't want to go to the office for meetings if I can just sit in my pajamas and drink a smoothie and do it on Zoom. Like, it's made a lot of people do that. But I did notice early on that there were a handful of people that just rose up and were like, I have something that can help, let me put it out there. So I just wanted to honor that. And thank you guys for stepping up and doing it, because you were both in the same situation. You were both dealing with your own fear, your own insecurity, your own anxiety, your own loss. And yet you put that aside and you put yourself forward to bring this work to the world that you knew you could do. So I just think that was amazing.
Can I just say to you though, Lilli, it was pure instinct. It was pure instinct. I remember the 19th of March, 2020, I had all of my contracts taken out of my diary with 3 or 4 emails. And I just thought to myself, I'm not the only one in this position. The government can't let us go to the wall. Do you know, so I kind of felt that there would be some way, some support, that we wouldn't just be left out, you know, strung out to dry, as it were. And in a way, you know, because all of us, haven't we, been through situations where we've had to be resilient during our lifetimes. Had to be. So for Ava and I, we were actually drawing on some of that past experience. What had we done in the past to be more resilient? So to create the book, we drew on personal experience. Obviously, we did internet research. Obviously, we spoke to people and really came up with 9 pillars of resilience. We're calling them the 9 pillars. And if you actually work through these 9 pillars, that's where you're going to be supported to be resilient. So what are the 9 pillars? And I'm not going necessarily in order, but appreciation and celebration, resilience and reframing and visualization. We've got community. There were so many. Ava, I don't know if you've got if you wanted to just go through some of the rest of them.
A few.
Yeah.
So, Lilli, what'd you say?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I already love the ones that you've listed, because and I just want to say that I think a lot of people might think they're not resilient.
Yeah.
And you just said it, Hyacinth. Sometimes you just have to be. Sometimes, you know, and I think this is the thing with life, isn't it? I think a lot of us sometimes will get into a position where we almost hope nothing comes our way. We're almost in the mindset of, oh, I just want to be on this path and I want it to be really level and straight, and then I just want to get to the end of my life and be okay. And then when something comes at us, like a challenge, we go, oh God, there's another challenge. Like, oh, I didn't want that to happen. Whereas if you can start to expect that the challenges are going to come, you never know where from, you never know what they're going to look like. But, you know, I think if you took anybody in the world and said to them, what's the biggest challenge you've gone through? And then they pinpointed it. I bet if you asked them before they went through it, if you had gone and asked them, could you get through that? They would say, absolutely not. There's absolutely no way.
I think, do you know what? I think that's right. And one of the pillars actually is about mindset and just the importance of, yes, you want to have an inner strength, but also not to kind of like mire in kind of like negative thoughts, negative behaviors, and really just focus outwards. Well, actually, what do I want? How can I work through this time in my life to get the outcome that I want? I know, Ava, you wanted to just go through some of the
so you just really well described goals and mindset. You've mentioned appreciation and celebration. Another one is self-reflection and awareness. So becoming aware. So what you said earlier, Lilli, about listening, we were talking about listening to our bodies and then reflecting, what does that mean? That also touches into self-care, and wellness and self-care is another one. Supporting community, being able to ask for help, because and to share what we're going through. We're not alone in this. Because I think sometimes when we go through those things, we feel it's just me, but actually
Totally.
a lot of people go through it, and it's just liberating to know, okay, there's and we can connect with them and we can talk about it. Learning and motivation was one I mentioned earlier when I said I was learning new things. We were learning new things every day, how to publish our book, how it works, etc. There's, of course, then taking charge and action, because once you've self-reflected and once you've looked at what you wanted, then it's about taking that, even if it's just the first step, getting it moving. So one of the things we talk about is how to overcome procrastination, for example, right? Or those things that hold us back from doing what we really want to be doing. And I think there's mindfulness. That's the other one, is mindfulness and listening. So being mindful, practicing those things that get us in that space of being present. And reframing and visualizing, which you mentioned earlier. So we've gone through them a little bit like that, but life is messy, right? So we don't need to do everything in order. We just tap into those resources when we need to. And the way that we've written these books is just for that reason. So we don't want you to start from page 1 necessarily, unless that's your style. You can just open the book and see what comes. And the first thing that comes now here in our latest book is pause, with an affirmation that says, I cherish the space of a pause. So here I go. I'm going to pause now.
I love that. I love that. I was about to ask, I think you're reading my mind bullets, because I was just about to say, is it a linear book that you go from cover to cover, or is it like something that you just pick up for that inspiration? And I love a book like that. I want to ask as well, you know, we've talked about the resilience and we've talked about the lockdown, and obviously everybody got thrown in, and it was unusual actually, because before that there had never in our lifetime, or in, you know, in any lifetime I can think of, been a time where suddenly everybody was in the same boat, regardless of where they came from. You know, usually you hear about these things, you see them on the news or you read them in the paper and you go, oh, that's over there, or that's in that place and it's far removed from me. And I feel bad for those people, but I don't really understand because I'm not going through it. This was the first time that we were all in that boat. And whilst that, you know, created community and brought people together, I think what we've also seen is a need to stand on our own 2 feet, because before lockdown, if you were going through a challenging part in your life, there would usually be somebody you could reach out to who wasn't going through that same thing, who maybe had the strength you didn't have, or had, you know, some words for you or whatever. And something I've heard a lot over the last few months is people going, wow, I really saw who my friends were in lockdown, because suddenly that person didn't reach out, that person didn't text, nobody checked in. And, you know, I was guilty of that because I was dealing with my feelings. And I think for the first time in all of our lifetimes, suddenly we all had our baggage to deal with. And it's not to say that we couldn't be there for each other. I've definitely spoken to some of my friends, but you know, before, where if I knew somebody was going through a hard time, I would consciously think, right, I'm going to check in with that person. I lost the ability to do that at times because I was so in my own hole that I didn't have that energy. I didn't have the energetic capacity to be there for anybody else. And I think what we've found is, and to me, this is resilience, right? Because we all felt before probably that we couldn't come through something like that on our own. So many people have the belief that they don't have the strength, that they don't have the tools or whatever it may be, and that they need the support of whoever it might be, a partner, a friend, you know, a parent or whatever. But the truth of the matter is we are infinitely strong, we're powerful, and we are capable. You know, God doesn't give us anything we can't handle. He really doesn't. And you know, what people listening, whether you resonate with the word God, universe, or if you want to call it Terry, like whatever, it doesn't matter. But I believe there is a force, and I believe that these challenges we're given were destined for us, and therefore we have what we need. And to me, that is resilience. And it's something that shows up even when you don't think you have it. So I would love to hear from both of you, because you mentioned before that, you know, obviously this book was written in lockdown, so you drew a lot of experience from that, but you also had experience before that. So I would love to know what other factors came into this book for both of you. What were those experiences that you were drawing on, and how did you learn that you could be resilient as well?
One that comes up for me fairly immediately was growing up on a council estate. For those listening in the States, that's known as the projects, but growing up on a council estate, being only one of 2 Black families on the council estate, and really just the racism that our family experienced, and really just having a lot of the time having to fight people off, like it was either live or die, it felt like at that time as a young child. So around the age of 10, actually, it was when we moved to that area, and really having to support and protect my brother, who was younger than me, who I actually took to school. So I just knew in a very real, raw sense that, you know, so there were these 2 brothers that every single day used to wait for us in the park. Never told my parents, never told anyone at school. I just knew I had to fight and protect my brother and bring us both home safe. You know, and as a child, knowing that I had to fight for my life, there was no choice. I think sometimes around resilience, we don't have a choice. Like, what's the alternative, really? Do you know what I mean? So, and it's also about mindset. So we talk about mindset quite a lot in both of our books, actually. What, you know, is it a can-do mindset or a can't-do mindset? What is it that you need to do to get yourself from where you are to where you want to be? So you may be fearful, but actually, what do you need to do to step through that fear? And Dr. Susan Jeffers, and this book comes to me quite a lot, actually, she wrote a book about feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah, love that quote.
So do you know what I mean? Like, being fearful is not a reason not to do something. Clearly you want to be, you know, if it's actually something, you're not going to put your hands in the fire because you know your hand's going to get burned. But just taking practical, clear, thought through risk steps to get to that next level. I'm not saying it's easy. I know it's a challenge, and yet that's what we're called on to do during this time. We're called on to be people who we've not been called on to be before. And that's the challenge. And I love when Eva picked up the idea of one of our pillars in terms of community. Can't do it on your own. Who's out there that's going to support you? So that's where the base of my resilience comes from. I've got this kind of, you know, the attitude of not giving up, like the attitude that there's a way around an issue or a problem, there's a way through it, there's a way under it, there's a way, there's a solution. And what's left for me to do is to find what that solution is.
Yeah, I love that. I would say I've got a similar attitude. In fact, I just received today the login details for a course that I'm about to do for understanding autism, because my 9-year-old is currently being assessed, but the process is so slow and we're just literally not getting the support that we need. I can't find it anywhere. And so I'm a bit like you. Instead of just crumbling under that and going, oh, there's no support, it was like, well, then it's up to me. And you know, you've mentioned community and you've said, you know, we can't do it alone, and we really can't, but we can do a lot and we contribute to that. You know, collaboration is true collaboration. You come at it from your own empowered state, and when we are able to do that, that's when the magic happens, right? And I call this Rapunzel syndrome, and I was Rapunzel for years because I would just be up in my tower throwing my hair out going, somebody needs to come and help me, somebody needs to save me from this because I don't have what it takes, I can't do it. And that was never true. You know, nobody's created without the ability to pull through whatever life throws at them. So yeah, I love that you shared that. Eva, for you, what were the experiences that you drew on for these books?
You know, Lilli, apart from the books, when you asked that question, something popped into my head. It's not necessarily something I would have thought of if I had prepared my answer beforehand. But my memory went back to when I was 17, 18 years old. And I was in a bad relationship for me. I was with one of those bully guys who think who like to put, bully person who likes to put someone else down in order to feel good and sort of have control over the other person. So in my case, it was a guy. And you know, it was my birthday dinner and he humiliated me in front of a bunch of people. Then he dumped me. And I was crying my eyes out. And now that I think of it, I'm like, why was I even, you know, but I didn't have the tools back then to realize certain things about sexism, certain things. I just knew in my body it wasn't right. And I was suffering for that. But then something kicked in, which I know I can tap into because from earlier on, I demonstrated it to myself. Something kicked in that said, well, I'm not going to be put down by someone else who want to cause me harm. I'm going to show them that I'm stronger than that. I'm going to show them that I will not only overcome this, I'm going to pursue my dreams in the face of them. It's not about revenge. It's not, I'm going to do my own thing. And if you ever thought that was not a possibility, well, you're going to have to think again and not even, and you'll be out of my life, right? So usually what happens with me, that's my own process. I will process for a little bit of time in which I don't react. So I've been working on sort of making this time a little bit shorter so that I can react appropriately earlier, right? In the last 20 years or so. And what happens next is what happened that time. I had a history test. I was going to be interrogated, as we say in Italian. I'm Italian. I was going to be sort of asked, quizzed by the teacher. It's called an interrogation.
Yeah.
And I was still a little bit tearful, and the teacher saw that and she said, do you want to do this another day? And I said, no, I slammed my thing. I studied for this. I went up there with my eyes, with the tears, and I nailed that. And I nailed that test. And I was proud of myself. And I was like, you see, this is it. I'm not letting anyone, if they've stepped over me, they're not doing it again. And then, you know, I got stalked by the guy. So there's a lot of, when this guy figured out I wasn't going running back to him like he thought I would, then he started trying to get me back. And I was like, nope, that's it. I'm cutting you off. And eventually, so I know I have that in me, and rather more than demonstrating it to someone else, which was the initial thing, the meaning of this, the lesson I would like to share with people is you have to demonstrate it to yourself, that you owe yourself self-respect, that you are worthy of something better, that you're worthy of following your dreams, and you're worthy of surrounding yourself with people who care about you. And this is giving me goosebumps now, but really it just brings up so much. I'm like, I have that grit, you know.
Do you know what, Ava? I love that, because some of what we've spoken about is what we talk about in our mini course, Setting Boundaries. It really helps to support you and steer you into saying, enough is enough. This is what I want. This is what I choose. I'm not going to allow you to take advantage of me. You know, and it's just so important, because not everyone knows what it is that they need to do. You know, people, you know, had their boundaries breached and they don't know how to stop that breach. And our mini course actually supports them and helps them to do that. So if anyone wants to tap into that, just go onto our website, and that mini course is there.
We were talking about just now today on Clubhouse. We had a room called "Are you a people pleaser or a boundary ninja?" And we just house. We had a discussion with a few people, and lots of golden nuggets came out of there. So I think definitely setting boundaries is a big one.
I want to talk about this for a minute, because I am a self-confessed people pleaser, have been my whole life, and I've been on a real journey around how I feel about that as well. I think in the online space, and certainly in the self-development space, people pleasing is seen generally as not ideal, right? And it really cannot be ideal. Like there are definitely elements to people pleasing that will they'll block you, right? It will get in your way. And this was my experience. And I've been on a real journey with how I feel about that. So when I first started learning about this, I didn't even know this was a thing. I was just brought up to be kind, right? And to be good to people. And somewhere along the line, I got it twisted that meant having no boundaries myself, that even to the detriment of myself, I still had to make sure someone else was okay. And I even noticed this when my children were younger. I mean, Sophia's only 3 still, but the boys, they're 8 and 9 now. But when they were younger, like age 2, 3, and they were in play school, I started to catch myself, like if they were, you know what toddlers are like, they just grab what they want, right? I mean, we can learn a lot from toddlers. They basically just go and get what they want. And I would see, you know, my child choose a toy that he wanted to play with. Another child would come and try and take it. He would get upset. And I would go over and be like, oh no, give the toy to that kid and make them happy. It doesn't matter that you're sad about that. And I started to catch myself doing it. And I was like, when did that start being okay? Like, why am I teaching my children that their feelings aren't valid? You know, and this was just something, you know, again, I think so many of us are maybe in this situation where we've been brought up and the lesson has been a beautiful one. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the message, be kind to people. It's great. And even being a people pleaser, I'm now at the point where I still identify as a people pleaser because I love that about myself. But I'm the first person I will try and please. Like that was the missing piece for so long. I didn't realize that I got to be pleased as well. It was almost like I thought I was some kind of martyr, that I just have to go through my life missing out and not being happy. But if everyone else around me could be okay, then that's okay. And like, you know, for anyone listening who thinks that might be your role here on earth, I can tell you it's not. You know, your job is to find your joy. Your job is to be the happiest version of yourself, because that's how you shine. That's how you help others, and you genuinely pave the way for other people to do that. So
I love
think
that. I love
yeah,
that, Lilli. I love
I would
that.
love
Because,
yeah, I would love you to talk about boundaries, because I think so many people think that setting a boundary makes them an asshole, or like setting a boundary means that they're being mean. So I'd love you to just
no.
clarify that for people. And I know you mentioned your course, and we'll definitely link to that in the show
Yes.
notes as well. But let's riff on that for a minute.
I love what you said about it's nice to be kind, because absolutely it is. But it's not nice to be a doormat.
No.
Like,
No.
So it's about saying, what do you want? And that's not an act of being selfish. It's an act of, if you like, self-preservation. You're saying that I'm okay, you're okay.
Yeah.
We're both okay. I'm not going to be abusive to you. I'm not going to permit you to be abusive to me. Where's our middle ground? So if I say no, recognizing that no is a complete sentence, no, I don't want to meet you at 6 o'clock. No, I can't do this for you, or I certainly can't do it right now. You know, it's a complete sentence. And I think if we stand in that we've got a right to have boundaries, a right that we reserve for ourselves, not a right that anyone gives us, a right that we reserve for ourselves to set our boundaries. I think that's right, because I'm saying to you and Eva, I respect your right to set your boundaries too.
Yeah,
actually, and I would accept that they're your boundaries.
I want to build on that, and I so agree with you when you say no is a complete sentence. So first of all, one thing that I used to fall into is, if I say no, I feel so guilty, so I have to justify no, and then it would just lose its power. It wouldn't be a no anymore, and then I would change it. Oh, but maybe I can do. So actually, practicing that firmness, it's a practice, right?
Yeah.
And yes, I can tell you why, because people respond better to knowing the reason, but I don't owe that necessarily. So depending on what the context is, I don't owe you anything, right? I can sit in that no for me. And if I believe it's important for you to know why, then I'll tell you. But I think it falls into justification. The other thing I wanted to add is that we train people to behave with us the way they do. So if people are breaching our boundaries, it is possibly the case that part of it is our responsibility, right? We're not responsible for the way people are in general, but if we train them to that they always can come for us and we'll say yes and we'll accommodate their every need, then that's what they'll do, because they'll come to expect that from us. And so it's not necessarily that they're evil, but if you're looking for someone to dump a bit of work on, and they know that you're generally available and that other person is less so, they'll come to you first.
Yeah.
And so what if you want to be building, and for the listeners, if you want to be building your boundaries, it's just taking a few little steps to set some boundaries and communicate them, and then hold them. That's the practice. Even if your urge is to, well, I can make an exception. No, hold them, because that's when then you gain your own self-empowerment there. You demonstrate to yourself again that you can stand your ground. And that's important. Once you know that, then of course you can flex and say, all right, this one time I'll do it. But next time, then can you do that for me, for example? Or, it will be this one.
And it's boundaries, isn't it? It's not that you're making a hard and fast rule and you're saying, I'm never going to do that. It's never going to be this way. You are exercising your right to choose in the moment, And so I realized that I can still be massively hearted. And I pour my energy out for anyone that needs it. My inbox is still open. I think I conduct my business different to how a lot of people do, because I will respond to your message when it comes in, especially if it's reaching out and asking for support. However, I used to do that at 1, 2, 3 a.m. If I saw somebody's message, I would be there for them. And, I think what really helped me get in that mindset of I need to set my boundaries was having my children, because now, you're not just taking my time, you're taking time away from my children, you're taking me away from my children if you're asking me, you know, to come and, you know, like, for example, I'm notorious with my one-to-ones for overrunning, notorious for it. It drives my husband mad. Like, I always come in from singing lessons when I used to be a vocal coach, always half an hour late, and he'd be like, you're a nightmare. People pay you for an hour, but you're giving them 90 minutes, sometimes longer. And so that was a question for me, because it was like, but I like to hold that space. So where I made that change was, I don't want to be clock watching. I don't want to, because I'm all about energy. I'm all about flow. I'm all about being in the moment. And if somebody needs to still be in that moment, I want to give them that. So what I did was I changed my model so that it's now a way higher premium rate to work with me one-to-one, because now it's not an hourly price. You're getting a price to get an intuitive reading from me, for example, and you are paying to be in that energetic space. And I can hold that space for you, whatever that looks like. It's no longer right, clocks on, clocks off, 60 minutes, you know? So I've built that to work for me. But I think as well, you know, for anyone listening to this going, oh, but it's so awkward, like, I've got a great hack for you, right? And this may or may not happen to you, but for me, my inbox gets inundated with people trying to sell me into their programs, their products, like multi-level marketing, like all of the things. And I constantly get messages going, oh, you've got great energy. I think you'd be a really great fit for this. I think you'd be a really good agent for that. Do you want to join my team for this? And it's a great practice to just say, no, thank you. And it isn't rude. I don't swear at them. I don't cut them off. I don't ignore them. It's a very clear no, thank you. And do you know the amount of messages I've got from people going, wow, thank you for one, replying, and two, being so nice about it, because I think those people just must get yelled at all the time. And it doesn't cost anything to be nice, but you can be nice and you can have your boundaries. And, you know, and another reframe for that, Hyacinth, you mentioned reframe as being one of the pillars. Another reframe is actually, if you're not holding boundaries and somebody approaches you, just as an example, somebody approaches you and says, oh, I've got this great thing that I really think you'd like. And if you know that you don't want it, but you don't say no, thank you, you go, oh yeah, go on then you end up on a call with that person. That's that person's time that you're now taking when you already know you don't want it. And then you've got to have the awkward conversation at the end where they go, right, are you ready to invest? And you're like, no, I didn't want it. You know, you're actually shooting yourself in the foot. It's like, people respect boundaries as well. You know, I can't remember which one of you said it. It might have been you, Eva, but people will meet you where you're at. They will act accordingly. You set your boundaries. You tell people what's okay. They will act accordingly. And all right, if you've always been a people pleaser, and then you suddenly decide that you're going to have some boundaries, for sure, some people are going to have their noses out of joint. Like when I first started saying no to people, they literally thought the world was ending. They were like, what is happening? Like, you never say no. And I'm like, no. And then I would be dying inside, like, oh God, let me just say yes. I can't, like, I want to throw up on myself because I've just like stood up for myself. But actually, you know, and I can still get like, I'm still a people pleaser at heart. It's ingrained. It's it runs really deep. So I love that you have a course on this. And I wanted to bring it back to this because we'll mention this now, there's an offer, isn't there, relative to your book. Tell people what this special offer is relative to the book and these mini courses that you've mentioned.
Okay, so sign up to one of our mini courses, either setting boundaries or managing your mindset, or standing guard over your mindset is what it's actually called. And then you can receive a free copy of one of our books. You choose which book you'd like, either Bouncing Back, 107 Tips to Become More Resilient, or our latest book, My Little Book of Resilience, 365 Daily Inspirations. Great offer. It's a mini course. It won't take you a huge amount of time, but there's so much content in there with videos, audio, workbooks, worksheets. So,
and the way you find them is you go on our website, go www.gomindinmotion.com/mini-courses. That's where you find both of them. and then you email us at info@gomindinmotion.com with a receipt within 24 hours, and we send you the book in a matter of a few days. So
Perfect.
that's our offer.
I love
Can
it.
we-
And is that limited, by the way? Is that a limited offer? Is there any certain number of spaces for that? Just let us know your boundaries.
Yes, exactly. So we're saying within the first 24 hours of this podcast being out, and 10 people, first 10 people.
Okay.
Lilli, can we give you a flavour of our second book? Can you choose a number between 1 and 365, please?
Oh, I love it. Okay, 222.
222. So I'm going to 222 now. Let's see what 222 says. It talks about community. And the quote is by Coretta Scott King. The greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members. Then there's an activity, and then there's an affirmation. And the affirmation is, I engage with the communities I resonate with. Let me say a little bit about the activity that people would be called to do on that page. So finding one or more communities is a great way to connect with people who share similar interests and passions, especially when you're experiencing isolation, something that a lot of people have experienced during this time. If you're seeking like-minded people to mingle with and stimulating activities, start by searching the keywords of what you're interested in. Obviously, whatever search engine you choose to use. Select the groups you're most drawn to and start exploring. If you can't meet in person, find your tribe on social media. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Meetup, and start attending online Zoom meetings and other video conferencing platforms. So it's about how you build community for you.
That.
So for each page in our book, we've got a title, we've got a quote, we've got an activity, and we've got an affirmation. 365 of them.
That's amazing. And that's no mean feat, let me tell you. I mean, I decided the other day that I was going to write out 100 sentences, 100 statements relative to the people that I know that I'm here to serve, right, through this podcast, through my work. And writing the first 10 felt so hard. And then I eventually got to 115. But it, again, I just want to honor the work that will have gone into that, because that is no mean feat. And I love that the quote was all about community, because we haven't really dug much into the spiritual aspects today. I know I delved in it a bit before, but I had a spiritual awakening in 2018. I was shown my purpose. I was told, you're here to those people waking up to purpose. You're here to put them back on path. I know that I lead with joy. I know that singing is the way that people find me, and that is the vehicle that I use to reconnect people to the truth of who they are. But as soon as I had that awakening, what came through really clearly straight after that was, you're not the only one. There are more of you. And I really believe that we are now in a time of community, collaboration. We are shoulder to shoulder with our brothers and sisters. This is not a time for gurus to rise where one person's higher than the rest. This is about collaboration. It's about everybody recognizing the power that lies within them. I don't care who you are listening to this. I don't care what you think your life is, looking around at your circumstances. I don't care if your house is in disarray. I don't care if you haven't worked a job that you wanted to do for years. It doesn't matter. Your life matters. You have power within you. And when you start to tap into that and bring yourself together with other people, then that's how we're going to change the world. This is truly the new paradigm we're in. And I know that, I feel it. And, the funny thing is, normally, if I was asked to pick a number between those two, I would have gone either with 5s or with 1s. Something made me say treble 2. So it was absolutely divine that was the message. And I 100% stand by it. I actually think that even now, because obviously we're in the UK, not everyone listening to this is, but we are slowly coming out of lockdown now. I still think that isolation is going to be a huge issue, because people have forgotten how to be with each other. The first time I saw my parents after we were allowed to meet up with people outside again, I didn't have anything to say to these people. They would be like, how are you? kids, yeah, all right. It was like, what do I talk about? I haven't done anything, I haven't been anywhere. And I'd really lost the art. And that's coming from me. I taught the hind legs of a donkey, as you guys are finding out. Like, I'm never lost for words. And it was so weird. So I think isolation is actually going to be around for a while. I think we're going to be called to be resilient on a whole other level. You know, just because lockdown is ending, we are now dealing with the aftermath of that. I think mental health is going to be at an all-time high. People, I heard on the radio today, there is now post-COVID anxiety disorder. People are anxious now about going out, they're anxious about being around people, and they are going to be called to be resilient. And you know, I would love to just wrap up with a message, and I would love you guys to chime in on this as well, to anyone who thinks that they don't have the ability to be resilient. What would you love those people to know? Hyacinth, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, can I say to you, I'm going to go to the book and I'm just going to open it randomly, my little book of resilience, and see what the message is there, because that's one of the ways people will use the book.
Perfect.
116, it talks about incremental steps. And the quote is a Chinese proverb: to get through the hardest journey, we need take only one step at a time, but we must keep stepping on. Let me just read that again. To get through the hardest journey, we need take only one step at a time, but we must keep on stepping. And the affirmation is, I am invincible. I think that's the message I want to leave everyone with. It's one step at a time.
I love that. I love that. I'm covered in goosebumps. And when you said that last bit, I imagined standing, you know how Wonder Woman stands with her hands on her hips and she's just facing into the wind and it's all blown. Like, that was the image I got as you said that. It's absolutely so powerful. Eva, what have you got for us? Follow that if you can.
I have copied you, Hyacinth, and opened the book as well. And the message is strengthen yourself. And the quote says, my past has not defined me, destroyed me, deterred me, or defeated me. It has only strengthened me. And the affirmation is, I am strong. What this means is reminding ourselves of all the obstacles we have overcome, of all the past challenges we have had to go around, and that made us the people that we are, and built us into the strong, resilient people that we are, that we have that strength, we can tap into it. Whatever strength means to you. Strength is not necessarily the physical one. It's the mental, it's the resilience, it's the self-care, it's everything we've talked about that makes you have those strong resources in you. So that's my message.
I love it. And actually, I had a nudge while Hyacinth was talking, and it came again while Ava was talking. So I have to go with this, and I'm completely springing this on you guys because we haven't talked about this at all. And I don't even know if you know that I do this, but I started doing 30-day challenges this year in correlation with the podcast, because I thought, like, what could I achieve if I did an entire year of 30-day challenges every month, just setting myself a new challenge with a new focus? What could I achieve? So in March, for example, I did a meditation challenge and I meditated every day. The current challenge is gratitude. I would love to do a resilience challenge, and I would love to link that to your books, because I think, you know, I share on my Instagram stories every day, and, you know, I just think if I could quote from that book and go, right, today, I just love that there's a quote and then there's an affirmation. And to everybody listening, if you want to join me in a resilience challenge, then get in touch and let me know. Get into the Facebook group. We talked about community. We have one here on the podcast. It's called the Confidence Academy podcast Facebook group. You can get in there. I'm going to be asking Hyacinth and Ava to join us. And if you mention in there that you want to be part of this resilience challenge, we will get our heads together to figure out when that's going to happen. And like I say, I've just sprung this on them. I have no idea if they're up for this, but girls, what do you reckon?
I think it's fantastic. I think it's fantastic because, you know, we've been thinking about for a while about doing a challenge inside our Facebook group as well. So maybe we can do a joint Facebook group challenge.
I love it.
If people are up for it, we'll create a challenge and take it from there. It'd be fantastic.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
We are excited. If you're excited, get in the Facebook group and let us know. And of course, there is the live Q&A. I go live every Thursday for a Q&A. Would you ladies like to join me? Would you like to come back and do a live Q&A at some point for this as well?
Yeah, why not? I mean, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Can we mention our Facebook group as well, Lilli?
Of course.
Is that all right?
Of course, yeah.
Please do join us on Facebook. Inspired Leadership is our Facebook group. Lots of great content on a daily basis.
Perfect. And we will link to that in the show notes as well. And as I said, you guys, you're welcome to join us in the Facebook group, and Hyacinth and Eva, we'd love to see you in there as well. And then that way, anyone listening to this, if you've got any comments, any questions, if you want to dig into anything we've spoken about in this episode today, jump into the Facebook group, let us know. We will have a chat about maybe setting up a live Q&A as well at some point in the future, so keep your eyes peeled for that as well. And of course, I'm live every Thursday anyway, so you guys can always ask me questions any week, like regardless of where you're at, because I know these episodes get listened to at all different times. So oh, ladies, the time has flown. And actually, Hyacinth, that was the first thing you said to me when we came on. You were like, doesn't the time fly? And it really does. It feels like we've been sat here 10 minutes, but it's just flown by. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Fabulous. I think the work you're doing is phenomenal. I think it's perfectly timed. Again, thank you for putting yourselves in that space and bringing this to the world exactly when it needs it. I think that we are all in a debt of gratitude to you for that. I think your book is going to change lives. I think it's exactly what we need to get us out of this shitstorm that we've been through. So I'm honored to have you on here. I'm so excited that we connected. Hyacinth, any final words for the listeners?
Just, stay safe, stay connected. We'll see you on your journey towards resilience. Just join us. Go to our website, gomindinmotion.com. Loads and loads of resources there. And sign up for our courses.
Yeah, get involved.
Look forward to seeing you. Yeah.
Eva, final words.
The thing that comes to mind is listen to yourself and trust yourself. You have the answer. Amen to that. So true. And don't forget, guys, there's going to be a stampede, because these episodes get downloaded, thousands of people download these episodes, and 10 of you are going to get the opportunity to get your hands on one of those books for free when you sign up for a mini course. Only 10 of you are going to have to move on it. Don't be one of those people that goes, oh, I'll do that later. It will be too late. I mean, it won't be too late. You can still get the book, you can still get the course, but you'll pay for all of it. If you want to get the freebie, you have to be one of the first 10. You've got to get your orders in, get the receipts, email it. We're going to give you all the information in the show notes. Get involved, and then come and celebrate with us in the Facebook group and let us know that you got in. Woohoo!
Yay!
Fabulous. Girls, thank you so much for being here. To everyone listening, remember, confidence is yours as soon as you choose it, and I'll be back again soon with another episode. Lots of love.
You've been listening to Lilli Badcock on the Confidence Academy podcast, as if you didn't know that. Thank you so much for being here. Please show me some love by subscribing to the show and giving it a rate and review on iTunes. And of course, if you know anyone who needs this show in their life, please pass it on and share the love. Now, if you have an inspiring story that you want to share on my show, then please get in touch using the link in the show notes below. And don't forget, you can hang out with me live every week in the Facebook group, so I'll look forward to seeing you there. Finally, make sure that you've joined my mailing list so I can shower you with love on the daily and give you a heads up about all of the exciting things that are happening over here in Lilyland. Things like my online choir that is now live. Grab your free trial and join the mailing list by clicking the link in the show notes, or visit lillibadcock.com for all of the information. Thank you again for being here. See you again soon. Big love.